Cool. All right, hands on the head like Jane. And hip circles. Good job, Jane. Bring your weight all the way around your feet. Increasing the size of the circle gradually.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So friendly today.
And two more. Changing directions.
This is the best Jane day so far.
Right?
Did he sleep really well? Is that what this means?
Oh no, he didn't sleep at all, which is why Kay's currently sleeping. He was up all night.
Oh, how lucky for you.
I know. Yeah, Jane. Increase the size of the circle. And one more. Good. Hands on the hips and stepping out. Can you help us, Jane? Hands back down. Keep the belly drawn to the back and the back straight.
It's like terrible Chinese to like mix the Chinese in with the English, but that's what I know.
For it.
Yeah, it was kind of keeping me up at night, like wondering if I had misheard my acupuncturist and she actually said shin instead of shen.
Right. It sounded really similar.
Yeah, but now that I know that shin is with an X, that really helps.
Cool. And I'm always happy to answer questions like that. Hey, Jean. You want up? Soon. Good. And three more. Yeah. Can you help me? Narrowing the stance a little bit. And our sink to raise and lift. Good. Help me. 2. 3. 4. Good. And go to 10 and then grab the child. I'll be right back. Have Cheerios will travel. Awesome. Okay, and now sink to twist, sink to twist. Two more. Last one. Good. Now, same wide stance, back straight, belly drawn, turn and look past the heel. That help, Jane? And now 10 more with a dip. Two more. Last one. Good. Narrowing that stance a little bit. Hands on the hips and rolling the body around the base. And once that roll feels comfortable, creating a space in the hip and rolling through. Make sure you're still rolling all the way around that base. Two more. Good, changing directions. Nice high stance to begin with. Rolling around that base. Then adding in that dip. Good, Chris. And 2 more. Very nice. Let's do some knee circles. Starting with the right leg. So externally rotating that right hip. Drawing out, around, in, out, around, and in. Try to sit down a little so you feel as though your sits bone is just skating on an ice rink. Changing legs. Good. In, arcing around and back. And now connecting the 2 legs for our figure 8. Rolling out, around, connecting as you pass from side to side. Good. Engaging with the toes just a little bit to bring stability to the lower leg. Sitting down a little bit more. So Karen, sit a little more. Feel that jackknifing at the hips. Back straight. Like you're sitting on an office chair, scooting in a big circle. Good. Keep that belly drawn into the back now. So the pelvis stays at neutral. Very nice, Margot. Good, Craig. Slow it down a little, Craig, so you can really go from one arc into the next, taking your time. From there, create that space in the chest. Getting those clavicles and raising that head neck. Good. As I pull from side to side, I grab with the feet, round with the hip. Grab with the feet, pull, round with the hip. Try to feel that turning in my belly as I draw from side to side. Excellent. Relax the legs for a moment. Finding a slightly more narrow stance now. Starting again with that first foot, internally rotating this time. In, back, open, and around. In, to around. Good, just loosening up that joint, getting comfortable with the movement through the leg. And changing legs. In, back, out, and around. And feel that closing and opening of the quad as the hip rolls, pulling the body around that base. and then connect the two legs to that figure eight. Good, making sure you're taking time so each leg gets to roll. Pulling from the hip, pivoting through the ankle, the knee tracking like a hinge in between those two structures. The belly draws to the back as the feet grab slightly. Nice shot. Yeah. The clavicles knit. And the head and neck raises. Go with your hands on your hips. Feel that natural rise and fall of the hip as you roll from leg to leg. Good, and slowing to a stop for a quick second. So watching me, as I roll and raise this hip up and back, my arms raise as the hip raises. As that hip turns in, the far arm turns and both arms stretch just a little. So there's still a lot of space between my two arms. As I pull entirely into this leg, that creates the shoot and the hands slide shoulder to hip. Now this hip is back. As that hip turns and raises, the arms raise off of it. As the hip turns in, the reached arm stretches and pivots. As I pull into this leg more completely, I slice to the opposite side and then continue. Pulling across, as the hip comes forward, the arms raise. As the hip turns in, the arms stretch. As I pull into that leg, we slide. Hey, kid, it's kind of loud. As I pull into the leg, raising, turn to stretch, weight shift to slice. Lift, stretch, slice. Good, taking your time. The hip moves first, Craig. Hip first, arms raise off. See, my hip is open out. As my hip turns in, that is the impetus to stretch and twist the shoulder. As I draw into this leg completely, that's the trigger to slice. So again, this hip is back. As it rolls to neutral, the arms raise. As it turns in, the arms stretch. As the weight shifts, the arms slice. Good. Raise to lift, turn to stretch, pull to slice. The hip raises, the arms lift. Hip turns, the arms straighten, pulling into the hip, and down we go. And let's try to relax into a few of those. And I'll come around and give one-on-one feedback in just a moment. Take your time. Let the slice feel measured and in time with the roll in your base. Hip rolls, arms lift, turn, slice. Good. Okay, everyone look at me for one moment. So as I slice down, you see how my arms are stretched into a long oval, right? It's not round, it's a stretched out shape. But as I turn to lift, the arms are gonna round as the hips round. So here, everything is round. And as I lift, I begin to go off long. As I turn the hip, I become far more oval as I stretch, and then I carry that shape through. Hips turn, arms are circle. Hip turns in, arms stretch oval, carry that shape through. Round, oval, slice. Round, oval, slice. Good, and keep going. Good, Chris. Make sure you let it lift. Okay. All the way, stretch, and then carry that slice down. Lift, slice. That's coming along nicely, Karen. Relaxed hands as you raise up. As that hip turns in, you see how both hands turn, ready to cut, and then drawing down. Relax to lift. Turn, adding more sharpness to the structure, cutting through. Relax and cut. There you go. Good. Stretching out through those fingertips as you arc through. Relaxed hands, stretch to the fingertips and then cut. Relaxed hands, stretch to the fingertips and cut. Good.
Thank you.
Good, Craig. And Craig, working a little more to let the hips dictate that roll. Pull, and see I'm cutting at the angle of my forward leg, cutting at the angle of that leg.
So what you're talking about is keeping that pung off of the downward stroke.
Right. So we're lifting with that fullness, and the exhale, everything drops through. The effort's in the raise, the relax is in the strength. Good, Margot. Very nice, Margot. The lift is looking great. As you turn, Margot, see there's that stretch, and then carry that stretch through. Then from here, relaxed to lift. Turn to stretch, carry that stretch through. Good. Relaxed lift. Turn to stretch, carry that stretch through. Very nice, very nice. Now for all of you, as you play with this, make sure those clavicles are still knit and there's still a little bit of space in the shoulders so that as you're slicing, you can relax and roll around that base. If I compress the shoulders too hard, I start running into my body, and that breaks up the flow of the movement and takes me off center. I want to make sure there's always that space in the shoulders as I roll around and through. Very nice. Good, Craig. Lift, slice in front. Lift, slice in front. A few more seconds of this. Good, and relax. So that's one variation of Dragon Stirs the Earth. We're going to do one more before we move on. This one's a little more complex. It involves both hands rolling. So we're going to start with one hand before we add in the second. We're going to start with the far hand. So let's go a little closer, easier to see. Scoop, turn, reach. Scoop, palm up. Turn blade of hand out. Scoop, turn.
And the gaze follows the fingers?
Exactly. Now notice how as I move in, there's always space in my armpit. I'm never entirely collapsing that joint in. As I draw towards my middle, my side view, I make space with my belly as I turn out. So the belly draws in. There's a very slight turn forward and back from the hip. So I'm not drawing the arm in from my shoulder like this. I'm drawing in with rotation of my hip, expressing out with the rotation of my hip. Roll to roll. Roll in, reach out. Good. A couple more of those. Good, Karen. So as you scoop up, coming up your center line, come to your nose, turn and reach. Drawing up your center line. Once you get nose height, turn and reach. So the hand is still going to go above your nose in its arc, but the transition starts about face height and then rolls out. And that's going to save you from turning out up here and taking up all the space. If I start to pivot here, it's a much more controlled oval.
That makes sense.
Good, Margot. Good, Craig. Very good, Chris. The other hand gathers to press, rolls, gathers to press. And so this is kind of a weird feeling at first, and it's hard to make it feel as smooth and fluid as the outstretched arm, but this is the motor behind. This is the syringe plunger, pushing everything through the other hand. So as it comes up here, I'm gathering, 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 and then compressing as the other hand will be reaching out. So relax, kind of gather like a big net, compressing and making it more dense as the other hand reaches out. Gather, compress. Gather, compress. Good. Palm down at belly height, and from the belly, the hand turns, palm up, stays palm up as it raises. Once again, about nose height, it begins this transition, barely up and over the head as it presses down to belly, rolls to palm up to nose height, rolls to palm down, press to belly. Palm up, lift, turn to palm down to press. Up to lift, turn to press. Good. A couple more of those, and I'll bring both these pieces together. Very nice, Chris. Relax your breath a little bit. Don't worry. Play with that circle. Hip opens, arm can travel out. Hip closes. The condensing of the hip is mimicked by the condensing of the hand. Hip opens, arm opens. Hip closes and condenses, arm closes and condenses. Open, open, close, close. Hip first, then hand. Hip first, then hand. Good, everyone. Very nice. Okay, so let's take a look at how this moves together. So I'm looking at the high hand. As they switch at about nose height, I'm now changing my direction of gaze to the other hand. So I'm watching your right hand raise. As you turn, I'm watching your right hand reach. Gather, press, stretch. Gather, press, stretch. So you see how that second arm we played with is actually a lot more active than the first most obvious hand. Right? The hand reaching is the one that's more apparent, but that reach to press guides the movement. Now, as that reaching hand passes, see I cross on the outside, so I'm grabbing onto this wrist, I'm shaving their grip off of my arm as I reach out to the side, drawing, clear the arm to turn.
Joey, your arms are touching them? Like your hand is...
It can touch very slightly, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll do side view, Margot, so it's easier to see. Again, looking away from all of you as that first hand raises. I'm looking towards all of you as I reach out and stretch. Externally rotating the hips. It's like so much of a fa li work. As my hand presses in, my hip presses out. Condensing through there, like gather the other hand, and there's that roll to engage. Before I make contact, I'm back in that back seat. I'm not pressing over here. That final little bit of press is rolling back into the leg far from the hand. So you can watch me. So I'm forward, 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 and then settle back at the point of contact. Roll, forward, 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 settle back at the point of contact. So both arms are out, both arms draw in. There's that yin-yang shape. Gather, gather, turn. And then both arms are out. Rolling back in. The hands raising up. Palm turns. Reaching out. Your left hand palm is up. Palm up, palm up. Turns the palm out as it passes the nose. Good, Craig. Take your time with that right hand, Craig. So that right arm arc with the left. There you go. Equal amount of emphasis on both arms. Very nice, Chris. Good, Margot. And as the movement gets more comfortable, Margot, start bringing that clavicle knit back in to keep all that pressure directed to the front of your body. It's okay to let it go in the beginning, but after a while, you really need that draw to the center to feel that compression, powering the hand moving forward. Good, Karen. And take your time, move from the base. Roll with me, reach. Draw into your right leg. Roll around your right leg. Now pull into your left as the hand passes your nose. Drawing into your right leg. Roll. Pull into your left as the hand passes your nose. There you go. Pulling back into your right leg. Pulling into your left. Good. A couple more on your own, all of you. It's looking really nice. Very good. Shake that out for a second. Go to the other side, and then our leg warm-ups. Any questions so far before we do this? The other side of this. Feeling pretty good? Cool. And this is a lovely exercise because from this, we can create the pressure that becomes our Bagua guard. And we begin to understand the vectors of reach in both arms. As one hand presses down and through, it propels and squeezes the other arm forward. Good, and so for those who know a bit more Bagua, in this case, Craig and Chris, on a circle, you can play with this until you find that reach and that stretch that can carry you into a deeper, more established guard. And for Margot and Karen, we'll get there very soon.
No worries.
Good. And so now to the other side, just as before, let's do it one little piece at a time and then bring it all together. So starting now with your right arm, scoop, turn, scoop, turn. So as I scoop, so my palm is coming palm up. It travels up my midline. If I weren't moving my hips, Make it easy to see. It'll be here. Palm up, palm out. Palm up, palm out. Palm up to height of the nose, turning the palm out, the palm completely expressed again at the height of the nose, scoop to the belly, lift to the nose, rotate back to the nose height, and then down to the belly. Stomach and noses are very important points of orientation in Kung Fu.
Is that because it sort of represents like blocking your face?
Exactly, you know, the two main areas of target. Yeah. Also kind of funny, the styles that are actually more murderous focus more on blocks around the stomach because headshots tend not to kill you, but organ ruptures are a very common problem with folly strikes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you could rupture a pancreas pretty easily.
Pancreas, spleen, and liver.
Yeah, spleen for sure. Spleen's an easy one to rupture, but that means you have to be able to get to that angle of your target.
Right, exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's like the people who actually do the serious full contact, they guard their face a little, mostly with head movement. The actual blocking is off the body.
Wow.
Yeah. Good, and now let's add in a little bit of timing work with that hip. And again, we're just trying to time in that pull of the hip, like a marionette string, pulling the arm in, the hip pushes, propelling the hand forward, the hip pulls, drawing the hand in, the hip pushes as you reach out. Very nice. And as you add in that hip, it becomes easier to keep space, of course, not only in the hip, but also in the shoulder, which tends to get compressed when the body is stagnant when we roll like this. So I'm grazing my torso every time here. If I move my hip, now there's space to roll through unimpinged by my own body. I'm getting out of my own way. Good, a couple more of those. Good, Margot. So Margot, you're doing this really well. When you get to here, the feeling here is that if there were pressure in this hand, it wouldn't go into my shoulder, it would go straight through my back into my opposite foot. And so as we come out here, we're reaching with that bow in the back. There we go, so we're not locking in the delt. We're trying to create a bridge all the way through the opposite foot. Very nice. Wonderful. Let's talk about the other hand now, right? So just as before, now your left hand turns out, presses in, pivots, palm out, palm raises, we get to nose height, hand comes up, presses down, we get to about Dantian level as we roll out, raise, nose height, draw in. Press the belly button, roll to the Dantian, up and through. Good. Taking your time. Open, draw, press. Open, draw, press. Good. Now, bring in that other arm. I orient towards the high hand. As that hand presses down, I change my view to the other palm, turning out. My body's kind of swimming from focus to focus. The hand and the leg pushing in opposite directions on your left side, and then being led on your right side. And see, once again, I get pulled back into that far leg as I reach. Working to make sure that my pattern is never overextending my reach. left hand is going to pass in front of your right, clearing it as you reach out. Nose to stomach, nose to stomach. Go ahead and keep playing with that for a few moments while I come around. It's looking great, Chris. Slow it down a little, Chris. Try to feel the stretch into your hips on each part of the reach. There you go. Use your belly. Draw your belly to your spine, Chris. That's it. There. Lay right there. Hey, Craig. That press to lift. Press to lift. Good. That's coming along really nicely, Karen. And from there, yeah, doing great. From there, your hips are scooting out a little. Try to find that roll. There you go. So you're keeping that belly focus. There, follow your stomach, follow your belly button, Karen. Belly button turns, pushing the arm, drawing the hand up and over.
I'm finding sometimes I'm accidentally doing internal rotation, but this is definitely meant to be external rotation, right?
Yeah, yeah. Good, very nice. And Margot, that patterning is looking really good in the hands. The next step is to watch your hands as they raise. So watch that right hand. I turn, I look at my left for a second. The focus comes back to the right. Left for a second, back to that right hand. Good. And that turning of the head neck will help to turn your spine all the way down your pelvis and create a more effective spring that you can later on use as you carry this roll. See, now as I come through, now my whole body's drilled, my head neck is drilled with, and now as I go into my guard and my stepping, I have that focus around the circle from that twist in the spine. Exactly, Karen. We're going to play with that in just a moment. Good. Okay, everyone. Watching me for a second. Left hand is going to lead. 1, 2, 3. Stretch, step, and I'm going to walk around twice. I just try that together. Find that patterning first. Left hand leading. And 1, roll back. 2, roll back. 3, roll back and twist. And now from your left foot's going to step up, grab the ground and pull, and follow that stretch in your spine around the circle twice. Good. Let's go to that pattern, same side once more. 1, and turn. 2, and turn. 3, and coil, step, and walk. Good. And now watching me for a second, the dynamic of this movement is maintained in my stepping. As I turn, there's that press with that right arm. There's that turn and reach with that left arm. That coil comes into my belly. I maintain those dynamics all the way around. All that action in the dragon stirs earth is ongoing as stretch in my core as I walk the circle. Does that conceptually make sense? It's like I'm fishing for something. I link into that, I pull that, and I continue that stretch all the way around. So all of this is just a fancy setup for making this supported. Okay? Let's try the other side twice. Then we'll do it back and forth and then some leg work. So we change sides, take a moment, get comfortable with the movement. We're not going to start counting yet. Find that roll in both the arms, the shoulders, and the pelvis. Good. Let's start counting towards 3. With 1 and turn. 2 and turn. 3. Slow down for 3. Carry that stretch into a drill. Feel that coil and now step, following that coil around your circle. And maintain that coil for 2 revolutions. If you lose it partway through, that's fine. But our lofty goal is to carry it all the way around. And then again. 1 and turn. 2 and turn. 3 and drill, stretch, and step. Carrying that stretch through. Good. Let's do one more each side. So this side one more time, then we'll do the left side again. Roll. 1, 2, 3, and drill and walk. Good, and last this time in the other direction.
Yeah, I have a question. So as you're getting, like this hand, as it's getting into that position, is it because is it coming, where is it coming from? Is it coming from the bottom part of the circle, or is it coming around and then pausing?
And it goes from pressing down.
Okay. So it's basically like, it's just like it's coming down against a lot of resistance to get it to be slow enough that it's not like too early.
And that third stroke is doing this.
Okay, thank you.
And so it's not recycling the side, it's drawing and then taking part in that coil. And so it's carrying all of that through and then giving it vector. So it's here, function stability, right? Here, the function is also stability. As we go into our circle, we have to stretch a little out of that stability, just enough so we can take a balanced step. And so it's a combination, if you want that substance mobile. And so it's that sweet spot between stability and also the ability to move.
Okay, cool. So instead of just continuing downward, it kind of begins to go like laterally or like rotating around your body a little bit.
Right, but with that same feeling of holding, pressing, and drawing substance with it.
Okay, thank you.
Like a spiral? Bhagwan spirals, weird.
What? Now, these spirals are really hard, they're theoretical, but like, you've all just done about 20 minutes of this, right?
Right.
And for those of you who haven't done much Bhagwan, you kind of see how there's a logical progression to all this movement. And it's just very simple circles carried in different angles. And so the more you play with that kind of, those tangents and those break points, the whole thing becomes pretty, easy pretty fast.
Right, and easy relative to Bhagwan, because this isn't easy, but like it makes a lot of sense.
Easy and that's not mystical.
Yeah.
It's just a series of stretches.
Yeah. Yep.
Any other questions? Yeah, Margo.
Is it that kind of thing where once you get it all together, then it's hard to actually break it down?
Oh yeah, no, very much so. And
like it's an engine, no? And later on it's harder to, so I'm like, oh, soon I'll get there.
The thing is, you're all getting there. And that's the really important thing to understand, is there's no getting there, there's no destination, right? There isn't, it never ends. There's just, how much more can I attach today than I had yesterday? And if this,
And then you have to keep advancing your skill because otherwise eventually we'd catch up with you.
Is my goal. Honestly, my goal in all of this is to explain it well enough that any of you can catch me. Because I meant the language.
Lofty goals, Joe. Your eyes and your breakdown are so good, and your ability to do things. Like, I mean, yeah, hopefully we can catch up. And yeah, that would be the goal. And because you're such a good teacher, you know, the breakdowns are much better than it would be otherwise if it were somebody that weren't you. But yeah, lofty goals.
The secret to getting good, you know, as much as I've become good, is to teach.
Oh yeah.
If you don't teach, you're only ever seeing yourself, and you will never be you'll never get the right vision to see what you're doing wrong. The benefit I have is that every week I get to spend hours working with all of you and seeing all the pieces in your bodies that are slightly different and trying to figure out how to make those shift towards a more true movement, you know, given the arts, right? And so that is the best mirror I have in my own practice, because like if I can help Karen do one thing better with how you sit, right? Or Chris do one thing better with how you relax between your chest and your legs. He has two little legs, right? Then I can incorporate that into my own practice, and I do. Like everything I teach all of you, everything I break down for all of you, I then take back and try to embody into my own work. And so,
so go ahead.
Yeah, and so that really is the secret I found improving, is you can't get beyond a certain point unless you're working out those problems in other people's bodies constantly.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I've been really enjoying teaching some of the warm-ups to my kettlebell group. I've done it. I've led them through it 3 times, and every time I remember twice as many as the time before. So, yeah, I think last time I did it, it was like 25 minutes worth of warm-ups.
When I'm about to say the word certification, I don't mean that you need a license to teach my stuff. But if you ever want to work out a program where I, go down all the details of you that I know on these things, you have the complete set, right? And then can present that on in its entirety. I'm happy to work with any of you on any part of this you want to make a thing that you own in its entirety. Like what I teach every day is an abbreviation, right? I teach you a little bit of this, a little bit of that,
Yeah.
towards a goal. If you want to learn the whole thing as a system, I'm also happy to present it in that way too.
That's awesome. Well, my agenda was sharing it with my group is to try to convince them to come to class.
Sweet.
That's great. Bring more people to the cult.
Right. And plus, like, we do some kind of a warm up, and otherwise, like, our trainer is trying to not be. He's trying to not be the leader. He's trying to just be like the person that initiates it. He really wants people to take over and take turns helping with different pieces. And so, yeah, they're really into it. Everyone's really enjoyed it so far, except for the last time I introduced squat kicks, and I don't think they loved that.
Oh man, that requires work.
I really like them though.
I love them.
And I counted in Chinese for them.
Good.
I wanted to comment on the sweet spot. I think that's a really nice thing, because we're working on that cross body and the one becoming the plunger and the propeller for the other, but there's this moment in between where there's this incredible freedom of movement.
Right.
And, I guess, if you're looking at like the classic yin yang symbol, you could see that as related to those little dots. Right. Those dots are not there for no reason. They're representing something really important.
It's like a bird flapping its wings. There's this point where that flap achieves liftoff.
And somewhere in there, you can suddenly.
That next thing.
Yeah. And it's almost like at that sweet spot too, there's a letting of the mind go.
Right.
To gain freedom. If your mind is trapped even in your beautiful movement, you're not free right there.
You're not experiencing it the right way. Or in the full way, I guess, is the way of putting it. And to Margaret's point, again, like every day you add something else. Every day you try to figure out one little piece you can tweak. And that's all any of us do with this. It's never done. So to that point, let's do some leg work.
Okay.
Otherwise, I feel like we're doing all disservice, and then we'll go from there. Sweet. All right, let's see. So feet shoulder width apart. We're going to do our step foot raises. And for this, remember, you want to step a bit beyond a comfortable step and then pull the foot up. Good. Very nice. Wide stance, turning, pulling the belly, pulling the hip.
And as the arm draws back to my body square, as my hands turn, hip turns. So I'm pacing out the twist of my upper with a pull in the lower. And in the kick, the sequence is twist, pull, heel raise. Now, if you watch me, it looks like it's just pull, heel raise, but I need that twist to guide the quad. And so to slow down for a couple of times through, twist, feel the hip, and then kick all in time for the hands to go back. And so this hand movement incorporates the twist, hip, and leg. And again, nice and slow, pulling that kick and back. Good, one more time, slow, twist, hip, kick. And now a little faster for 10. E, R, san, si, wu, liu, qi, ba, jiu, shi. Changing sides, same thing. Feel that twist, pull the hip, pull the leg, and see here, I still have this much runway, and we use that for the kick. This is twist to hip, this is hip to kick. 1, 2, 1, 2. Make sure that hip twist is part of it. And when you go fast, really work to not lose that hip twist. Try not to make it kick, kick, kick from the shoulders. Try to bring that pulse all the way down the leg. Good, let's go for 10. E, R, san, si, wu, liu, qi, ba, jiu, shi. Good. And now with your left leg forward, your right leg back, or either way is good too. We're going to do straight leg raises, okay? Pushing with that brace leg as you pull the toes back and push out with your heel and back down, right? Let's do 5 of those each side. E, R, san, si, wu, change legs. E, R, san, si, wu. Good. Now, same idea, the squat kick for 10. And E, R, san, si, wu, liu, qi, ba, jiu, shi. Good. Shaking that out. Okay. Inside crescents. With that left leg back, pulling the toes up, feel that close of the hip, and the hands are going to be on this side. From here, as I bring my arms across, I'm going to pull my leg across in a counterbalance and back. Toes lift, pull from the hip, hands cross and back. Toes lift, pull from the hip, cross and back. Good, 2 more on this side. Toes, pull, cross. Last one, and kick. Changing sides. Again, as the leg goes one way, the arms are going to twist the other way as a counterbalance. Watching me first. Okay. Toes lift, pull from the hip, cross, and step. Cross, and step. Cross, and step. 2 more. Cross, and step. Last one. Cross, and step. Good. Okay, last piece of the day. Changing feet again. Toes lifting that back foot, closing from the hip, pull and step in front. Toe touches the ground but not the heel. As I pull into that leg, my weight shifts. Straight down the back, not sticking my butt out. As I twist, the left leg raises. As I turn, pushing from the hip, and then pulling from the hip as I come around and back. Good, I'll leave one more and I'll watch all of you. With your opposite leg back. Toe lifts, pulling from the hip, raising up, wipe off that table to step. Pulling into that hip. As you twist, raising the leg, pushing from your quad, from that inguinal, and then drawing from that inguinal as you come around and back. All the